Greetings and welcome to the Stoic Gamer podcast. My name's Michael Bolton. In this podcast, I talk to players at all different levels of the hobby about their experience going to competitive events, whether it's their first time or whether they're a seasoned old timer like myself. I discuss the events we're going to, I discuss the events we've been to, and I talk about everything from army building, rules queries, happenings on the table to hotel disasters and culinary and gastronomic accidents, all part of the hobby and all part of visiting different parts of the country and the world as part of our fantastic 40k hobby. If you like this kind of content and you want to hear more, please let me know. If it's on YouTube, please just leave something in the comments. I'll always get back to you if I can. And if you're listening on any other kind of platform such as Spotify, do leave me a message.
Greetings, listener. I have returned from Battlefield Birmingham with a cold and a cough, and it hasn't gone away, and I'm still not feeling 100%. So apologies for husky, croaky, horrible coffee voice, but I thought I'd give you a rundown of how I got on at Battlefield Birmingham. It started so well and went downhill from there. I took a Necron list, which I thought I was going to do quite well with. I was expecting to win 2 and probably 3, I thought, out of 5. How wrong I was. For those interested, my list was 2 bunches of Immortals with a Chronomancer in each one, Imitate the Stormlord with 10 Lichguard, the Silent King, 2 Locust Destroyers for mission play, 2 Monoliths and a Triarch Stalker. First game into a nice chap called Angus and his Astra Militarum or Guard. But let's rewind. Let's rewind to the event itself. Battlefield Birmingham, another cracking event run by Harry Allen. It's at Hales Owen College. It's well run. The facilities are clean, tidy. There was plenty of room in the gym. It wasn't as loud as I was worried about, and everything ran extremely well. The prizes were spectacular, and the biggest prize was reserved for the most sporting, as it should be, not for first place. Added to all of that, there was a bar, there was a bistro, there was a table service from the staff who came round and asked you for drinks and snacks and that kind of thing. Food was included in the price. So on the Saturday lunchtime, I had a very nice chicken wrap and chips, which was very good. And then on the Sunday lunchtime, I had chili and rice, which was equally good, surprisingly so. So all good. The venue was great. The location was great. We had arranged as a group, the Cold Steel Mercs, to meet at a hotel in Stourbridge. So I wasn't going to be there on the Friday, but I had a phone call from Steve who said he had a spare bed in his room after arriving at the hotel and would I like to go. So I threw everything in the car and rattled the 40 minutes or so down to Hales Owen and Stourbridge and spent Friday and Saturday nights with my mates. Which was really good. We ate out, we drank too much, we had a bit of fun. We moaned about the hotel having ridiculous events going on in the coronation suite. There was a soul evening right below my bedroom. But overall, you know what? It was great. We even had one of our non-playing 40k friends come all the way down from Blackburn to spend a couple of nights socialising with us. So really good fun, totally enjoyable. Couldn't do any better on the social front. And the middle of Stourbridge, for anybody interested, was quite busy. I was quite surprised, especially on the Friday night. Lots of bars, lots of restaurants, lots of things to do, and which was a bit of a shocker for me. I'm told, in retrospect, that Stourbridge is a bit of a tourist town. Never heard of it being a tourist town, but there you go. So that went really well. Back to Angus and my first game. Now, Angus admitted straight up that he was going to try and win the fluffy Nurgle, which was the wooden spoon and was indeed a giant fluffy Nurgle the size of your head. And so his list was, I think he'd be comfortable for me to say, not competitive. He had the three lemon russes and a basilisk, 40 or 50 infantry of assorted types, a couple of sentinels, a chimera command squad, Leonardus on his horse, who wasn't on his horse. It was a lovely model that he had kit bashed. And then he had two models I'd never seen before. One was a Crassus, or whatever that is, a transport, I think. And the other one was a giant truck with a massive flamer on the front. Very tough, lots of wounds, all that, 2-up save, that kind of thing. Anyway, the game went as I expected it to, and I was able to go 100 points against Angus's 69. I don't think it was a surprise to anybody, and I'm quite thrilled after that. I've never scored 100 points in a game of 40k in my life. So 100 points for me, 69 for Angus. That could be where things started to go wrong, because then I was drawn against David. Now, David is a Necron player, plays for Glasshammer Gaming, has won a few events, was at pains to tell me that he hadn't played competitively for a while and hadn't won anything for a while, but his list was a Necron list, nothing like mine. In fact, it was Canoptic Court, and it was it was a dead ringer for Josh Roberts' Canoptic Court Necron list, which is sweeping all before it at the moment. So it had a couple of Doomsday Arcs. It had the main element of the army was 3 6 model blocks of wraiths with an attached technomancer to give them the 4-up feel no pain. And then assorted bits and bobs with some anthracites just to do the mission work. It was tough. It was a tough army. But it was very close. Very close. He ended up beating me 77 to 71. And he even said to me at the end, he said, if it hadn't been for me having some bad cards, he feels as though I could have won that. And I feel I could have won that as well. It was very close. I killed one unit of wraiths quite easily, and I think I could have, if I'd have thought about it a bit more, I could have killed the other two. Anyway, that is going to influence what I do with my list going forward, I think. So again, 71, 77 loss. So I've won one and lost one. Third game of the day, I run in to Dan, my nemesis. I fought him with his Chaos Knights at the last Battlefield Birmingham event, and I'm drawn against him again. He's got similar list before, 2 big knights, 5 or 6 war doggy knights, and a great fat and clean one which spent the entire game sitting on his home objective, which I thought was a quite expensive thing to do it with, but it didn't make any difference. For some reason, I played badly. I played really badly. I played well, I think, in the first game. I played excellently against David in the second game. Third game, for some reason, I had a rush of blood to the head and was a complete idiot. He deployed his big tanks and most of his small tanks on 1 quarter, and for some reason I decided I was going to throw a monolith and a unit of Lich Guard at it. It was completely stupid. Basically, he just wrapped me up, shot me, killed me, charged me. It was all over by turn 3, really. We carried on, but it was bad. He won't mind saying he was a bit lucky, but I played badly. That was the main issue with this game, and I ended up losing 93 to 51. Not happy with my performance. I can put it down to me still having this cold arrangement. I can put it down to me being tired. I can put it down to me being psychologically upset, having to fight the same army that absolutely thrashed me 2 or 3 weeks previously. Whatever it was, no, I've got to own it. I played like an idiot. So I go back to the hotel that night. We all have far too much to drink. We all have far too much to eat. And we all go to sleep and wake up the following morning. So the following morning, nice breakfast in the hotel, leave the hotel in the cars, drive 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes maybe, to the venue, turn up at the venue. I've drawn orcs. Now, I know how orcs are going to work. Jack, lovely guy. What I would say was a typical orc list. A couple of trucks with boys, Meganobs, Gazgul, 2 of the Mad Drug, Rots, whatever he's called, the guy on the Land Shark, another guy on a Land Shark with the 4-up invulnerable, and then either a 4-up or 5-up feel no pain with a lot of damage. A few Storm Boys, and a big unit of the guys riding the pigs, hog riders or whatever they're called. I thought I played the first half of this game excellently. I know what was going to happen. He was going to stage himself in the first turn. Stage 2, declare the war, rumble across the table, advance and charge everywhere that he could, occupy as much of the board as he could, and then cling on while I tried to fight back in the last couple of turns of the game. That's how orcs usually work, and that's what I was expecting, and that's exactly what happened. I went first and drew a couple of cards that allowed me to score a few points. I got, from memory, I think I got... Oh no, I can't even remember now. I think it was the one in the centre. Yeah, it was. It was the one where you have to have no enemy within 6 inches of the centre of the table. So, and I got deployed teleport homers. So for me, what I did there on turn 1 is I moved my monolith forward 8 inches, and then I used the Eternity Gate to move the Lich Guard through that a further 6 inches, which put them a foot into an inch or so into the central objective. So I controlled the objective, deployed teleport homers, and I was able to claim the points for him having nothing within 6 inches. Good, no problem. Then it was his turn 1, and as expected, he just manoeuvred, ready for his war on turn 2. But he also ran out of a truck with 10 boys and managed to get a 8-inch charge or whatever it was into my Lich Guard. He killed 5 Lich Guard. I killed all of his guys except for the knob in return. It was okay. I'm not worried about that. I scored the points in the first turn. He didn't score many, but now I know what's coming. So in my second turn, I pull back everything. I removed the Lich Guard from combat using one of the strats I've got and popped them through the other monolith I have somewhere safe. Everything else pulled back out of charge range as they could get, except for the monolith in the middle, which I was going to leave as a roadblock. If I could defuse his war and just lose one monolith, I was reasonably happy. That's exactly what happened. Nothing else contacted anything anywhere else. He moved forward a bit, didn't get as much board control as he would have liked, I don't think. And Gazgul ripped the plates off my monolith and killed it dead. Easy peasy, even with a 4-up invulnerable. It didn't blow up. After that, things got frustrating. I teleported, using the hyperphase rule, I teleported a monolith and the Silent King into his back lines where he'd left a big gap, and could not kill the mad dog Grotsnick or whatever he's called sitting on his land shark. Every time he made a save, The death rays, which are doing d6 damage, d6 plus 1 damage against him, hit 5 times in Overwatch when he moved. He rolled 5 dice and rolled 5 4-up invulnerable saves. That was the theme for the rest of the game. So at the end of the game, I was stymied by 4-up invulnerable saves here, there, and everywhere, to the point where he eventually won 83-64. Good game, nice guy, and I think if I'd have killed the guy on the land shark on the first time of asking, I'd have been able to roll up half his army. So it was frustrating in the worst possible way. Anyway, so now I've lost 3 and won 1. Comes to the last game thinking I should win this. I'll be on the bottom tables. And I'm fighting a lovely fella called Bert. Bert has a demon list with the big guys in it. Be'lakor, Big Bird, 2 Soul Grinders. I think that's all the big ones he had. And then he had 3 Beasts of Nurgle for deep striking in and doing all their shenanigans. Those are the ones that if you don't kill them straight away, simply get all their wounds back at the end of each phase, which caught me out. I thought it was the end of the turn. So I shot some wounds off and was attempting to charge. And then he said, hang on a minute, they get the full wounds back. Lack of knowledge on my part. The game was okay, except I couldn't kill Big Bird or Bellicor. Oh, and he had the great unclean one that just spent the entire game sitting on an objective, not being bothered by anybody, playing cards and drinking Coke. Again, he had the dice gods on his side. It was a lucky. I felt as though I didn't play that badly, but it's just one of those things. I was locked in combat with the Silent King and one monolith with Big Bird and the Soul Grinder for about 3 turns, until eventually I killed the Soul Grinder, but combined shooting from Big Bird killed the Silent King. So it was a bad trade for me, and I couldn't get the monolith out of the corner. Normally it's Titanic. I could have fallen back, shot, and charged in again. But unfortunately, I was right in the corner of the table and couldn't do so. Final score, 97 to 75. So I lost 4, only won 1. I must say, in all honesty, it's a disappointment. It is a disappointment. But, all of these things are learning. So what have I learned? I've learned that taking the Triarch Stalker to take away people's cover saves was 125 points that never did anything in any game. So I'm going to move it. I'm taking it out. I liked having Imitek the Stormlord for the extra command point. And I quite liked the Lich Guard that he was with, because they were able to move through the Eternity Gates on the monoliths and basically pop up anywhere on the table within 6 inches of a monolith, which was really quite handy. But in terms of a close combat threat for 270 points, I think having something like the Nightbringer for 255 points is more scary. So I may swap them out, and I'll explain why I'm thinking that in a moment. So I only lost 2 monoliths all weekend. So out of a potential 10, only 2 died. They're good, and I think they're pretty good stuff. I keep them. The Silent King is too expensive, but he is a threat, and he gets that aura of reroll 1s to wound and reroll 1s to hit. I think you could probably spend 420 points in a better way, but in Hypercrit, I like the fact that if you need to kill something, you can drop the Silent King in next to whatever's shooting and get that reroll 1s to hit and wound. And I think that can make a difference. So I'm sticking with him. I did find that only having 2 single Locust Destroyers was challenging, because it was they were the only mission play units I had, and clever players like Bert with his demons was able to deep strike in a unit of flamers, split fire, and kill both of them on the same turn, which was nice to see. Good play. I enjoyed it, but it was annoying. After that, if I wanted to do any actions, it meant a big unit had to do them. So I may have to address that a little bit as well. What else did I learn? The Immortals are good, but I don't think I use them very well. And I need to get my head around how to use them, what they should shoot at, what they shouldn't shoot at. They are, each one is about 200 points by the time you've added a Chronomancer or whatever with them. So it's 200 points that you really need to do some work and do some lifting for you. So that's that. So what do I think? What I'm going to do is exactly what I've just talked about. I have an idea for a skew heavy armor list, but what I intend to do is just to tweak this list for the team's tournament I'm going to in May. And the reason for that is, as I look down my scores, except for my embarrassing defeat to Chaos Knights, where I only scored 51, all the other games I actually scored points, or would have scored points in a team event. So I scored 71, 64, and 75. I won't have scored a lot of points, but if you're playing in a team event, you want everybody to get more than 54, because if you get more than 54 points, you start scoring tournament points. So actually, of my 5 games, 4 of them were scoring team points. So I think if this list can up its game a little bit, along with a bit of skill from me and a little bit of luck, I think we'll be okay. So my plan is, and I've drawn a new list up, and I'm here. It's here. Can you hear the paper rattling? There. It's basically the same list, but what I've done now is I have dropped the Triarch Stalker and replaced it with 10 death marks. There's a reason for that I'll go into in a minute. And I have put in the Nightbringer to replace the Lich Guard and Imhotep. Now that might be a bit short of command points, but I never felt short across the weekend, so I'm hoping I don't need him. So now I've got a bit more threat, and now my list is the Silent King, 2 units of Immortals, one with a Plasmancer now and one with a Chronomancer, the Nightbringer, 10 Death Marks, 2 Monoliths, and still the 2 Locust Destroyers for mission play. I think that's a little bit scarier, because now I've got 2 Monoliths, the Silent King and the Nightbringer, which are really quite scary in a list. The reason I've gone for the death marks, why 10 death marks, you ask? It's because of precision. The way I killed David's wraiths was I charged them with the Silent King. I know what wraiths do. They ain't all that in combat. They're not going to hurt the Silent King or a monolith in combat. Not very much. So I charged them with the Silent King, and I spent a point for epic challenge and killed the Technomancer. Took away their extra little bit of repair at the end of the movement phase, and it also took away their 5 up feel no pain. Then I shot them. Well, I shot them previously, but I shot them with the everything in my army that I could, and they go down surprisingly quickly, especially to things like funnily enough, especially to things like the particle whip on the monoliths. 3d6 shots, strength 8, which is great. -1 doesn't matter because it puts them on their invulnerable anyway, and a flat and 2 damage, which is with devastating wounds, which is also great because they've got 4, so it's quite efficient in killing them. Just need 2, you're not wasting any wounds. So what I've decided to do is I think I can take 2 of these things out at a time. I can shoot one with the Immortals, hopefully kill the Technomancer, shoot it with other stuff, kill some of them, and then charge it and kill it with either the Nightbringer or the Silent King. And at the same time, do a similar thing to the other one by charging it with the Nightbringer or the Silent King, playing epic challenge, killing the Technomancer, and then flailing away with anything else I can hit it with. It's it's not easy, but I think it's a stat check to that list of Josh Roberts and David, and I'd be feeling not reasonably confident because they're both excellent players, but I think I'd be in with a chance. So that's my thoughts. So at the moment, my list has changed slightly in order to go to the international team tournament in May. Now, for those of you interested in that, it's happening in Nechar's in Birmingham, and it will be brutal, I imagine. What I've noticed about going to team tournaments is the teams that prepare most do best. And most teams will pull their teams together. They will design lists so they have something to face any kind of army that is out there. So you don't necessarily take the same lists that you would take to an individual tournament, because in an individual tournament, you only want to win by a point each game, and you've got a good chance of winning the event. With this, however, you want every team member to win, well, to win ideally, but you certainly need them to score some points. And so having the odd skew list, a list that's a little bit odd, sometimes comes in really well, because nobody will have thought, well, you hope your opponent's teams across the weekend won't have thought of a way to deal with it. So although I intend to take the list I've just discussed with you, the alternative one is one that is basically lots and lots of big, heavy, toughness 13, monolith style stuff. And this one had an obelisk in it, which is complete rubbish, except that if all I want it to do is to sit on an objective, that's great. An obelisk, 2 monoliths, the Silent King, the Nightbringer, 10 death marks for just shooting characters out of units, because they make a big difference. 2 Locust Destroyers and a Locust Heavy Destroyer, singles, just for mission play. And then a unit of Cryptothals. The plan for this list would be to jump onto 3 objectives, keep my home one, and then drop a big heavy vehicle, a monolith on 2 in the centre of the table, perhaps a centre one and one somewhere else. I could go fixed and pick something like Cleanse and deploy Teleport Homers. And to do that, all I'd have to use the Eternity Gate to whip the 2 Cryptothals from wherever they are on the table or wherever they are in strategic reserve through the gate and stand on the objective and do the missions. Same with the death marks. Just wick them through, do the missions, and just sit there and shoot like mad, and have the Silent King and the Nightbringer there to threaten anybody who looks like they're going to knock one of my monoliths off the forward 2 objectives. There's no finesse involved here. It's just, I've got a toughness 13 thing sitting on my objective. I can give a 4-up invulnerable save to them if they like. What you're going to do about it? I thought about a Tesseract art, but it's only toughness 12. And although it's got a 4-up invulnerable, toughness 12 is not as good as toughness 13, because all the las cannons in the world are wounding on 4s instead of 5s. And it makes you make saves. I'd rather not make the save at all. So if I can, the toughness 13 is different. And they do get a lot of shots, and you never see an obelisk because everybody says they're rubbish. But I think very much depends on your mission play, and I think in a teams list it might work. So that's where I'm at. I'm probably not going to take it. I'm probably going to take the evolution of the list that I took to Battlefield Birmingham and see how I get on, because I think it's pretty good. But what I need to do is to find a way to mitigate somebody throwing lots of 4s on their invulnerable saves and saving themselves. That sounds like another podcast. How does one mitigate for the 4-up slot machine? Sometimes it's really good and they never make a save at all. Sometimes they make all their 4-ups, and it is a toss of the coin, literally, whether they pass or not. And when you're firing things like death rays at them, which is a lot of damage, it makes a huge difference if they pass 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And I think there's a podcast to be had talking about all of that. So I'm going to try and get Kyle on again to talk about how he gets on at the Birmingham Super Major next weekend. The Manchester Super Major next weekend. Or at least get that nice Mr. Crumble home to come back and talk about how his Necron list got on at Manchester. And after that, I've got another one of my expert challenges where me and a very competitive world-leading player build a list and compare it and laugh at each other's choices. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to my tale of woe, with just a spark of hope somewhere in it, I think. I'll keep you all informed. Hope you enjoyed what you're doing. If you enjoy what I'm doing, please share, press the little thumbs up, subscribe. Because I was talking to a few people at Battlefield Birmingham. A couple of people introduced themselves and asked me if I was the Stoic gamer. They were listening to my podcast, and I was thrilled because up until then, that's the first time anybody has actually admitted to listening to the podcast. So thank you so much. You know who you are. Thank you so much for that. And for my friends who tell me that they listen, for God's sake, if you're listening, mates, press the subscribe button, press the like button. Do all the right things. It does help. So until you do all of that stuff, see you on the ice.